2020 meeting of the Montgomery Historic Preservation Commission will now come to order. My name is Richard Bailey. I have the honor of serving as the chairperson of this commission. I'd like to welcome our other commissioners here this afternoon, our staff, and our visitors. And as we do customarily at the beginning of each and every one of our meetings, I'd like to read this caveat. The Historic Preservation Commission is a 9-member board appointed by the City Council and serves on a voluntary basis without compensation. The purposes of the commission are to promote the educational, cultural, economic, and general welfare of the city through the preservation and protection of buildings, sites, structures, areas, and districts of historic significance and interest through the preservation and enhancement of local historic architectural, archaeological, and aesthetic heritage found in this city through the maintenance of the distinctive character of the city's historic districts and through the promotion and enhancement of the city's historic and aesthetic attraction to tourists and visitors. Also, as we customarily do at the beginning of every meeting, we give the other commissioners the opportunity to introduce themselves. And this afternoon, I'd like to start from my left and the audience right with the individual commissioners introducing themselves.
I'm Brian Mann.
Kamala Brodnix.
Harold P.
James Long.
Thank you very much. And as we look at our agenda, we first of all want to approve the minutes of our previous meeting. You have a copy of it, and to our other commissioners, the chair will now entertain a motion for the adoption of the minutes of the last meeting.
So move.
Moves. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by a show of hands. Call the motion, carry unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving right along with our agenda for this afternoon, the Montgomery 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Does everybody have a copy of it? Who does not? Okay, and what we want you to do is you notice it is addressed to you. You should see your name in the upper left-hand corner of the comprehensive plan, and the instructions are to contact Mr. Robert Smith, who's Director of Planning, if you have any questions or concerns regarding the comprehensive plan. Anyone has a comment before we move from that point?
I think it should be noted that, from what I'm told, this is the first comprehensive plan the city of Montgomery has had since, I believe, the 1960s.
Okay.
So this is not just some routine report. This is
big stuff.
If it takes you 60 years from one to the other, either somebody dropped the ball or it's big stuff.
Okay, all right. Any other comment?
Dr. Bailey, I did ask Robert Smith if he wanted to come, and he said he would be glad to. If you all look at it and you have questions, he would be glad to come and talk to you about the
Right.
plan. There is a historic preservation component to it.
Right. Do you think he would want to come at our next meeting?
Well, I asked him if he wanted to come to this meeting, and he said no.
I see.
No, I don't think he wants to come and talk about the plan, but he would be happy to come and talk to you about the plan if you've read it and have questions or anything you'd like to discuss with him.
Sure.
It's 250 pages. It would take a while.
You would want him to come to?
No, it would take a while to familiarize yourself with it.
Okay. Is there anyone who would want to have someone come and talk about the plans? Anyone?
I would suggest you all read it, and then once everyone's looked at it, you can discuss it, and if there are questions, we can invite him at that time.
Good strategy. Thank you so much.
And maybe really invite the public from it. And really invite the public from it, period.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where is the preservation part? Is it the Great Places?
I don't have a copy with me. I'm not sure.
All right. There being no further discussion on that point, Sign Application Review Committee, Ms. Broadnax, Ms. King, Dr. Hansberry not here, and Brian Mann. Anyone wants to take the lead on that?
Brian, not Brian, sorry. Dallas, executive direction. Do you want us to go over this and vote now, or do you want to hold the vote?
Hold the vote for,
November.
we discussed having it ready today because we only have 6 warm bodies appointed to the HPC right now in case we don't have a quorum in November that we can still move forward. I would suggest we go ahead and do it unless there's a concern, but.
So I'll run through our nominations and then we can vote.
Okay.
Okay, Paula, you're on. We had 5 applicants this year.
And I don't know if Carol's microphone is on.
No, she's not speaking in.
She did.
I still can't hear.
Yes, there's something wrong with it.
Do you have red lights on?
Can I do what?
Go to the podium.
That one doesn't have a mic. That one doesn't have a mic either. Oh, I see. Oh, okay, here we are.
I'm not sure. That red light is on.
I know this one's alive. Okay. These are our 5 nominees to receive a historic district sign come December. Next slide, please. 929 Park Avenue, which is located behind First Methodist Church in the Cloverdale Historic District. It's a very nice bungalow built about 1908. It's fairly pure. I don't really want to go. Should I describe everything for everybody? But it was very well documented. It's had lots of different pieces of work done to it, but done in ARB approved increments, as well as fairly tasteful for contemporary reasons. The second one is 3352 Lexington Road, which is in Cloverdale, Idlewild. It's built 1930, a Tudoresque brick underneath the white paint, but it also has had several alterations, but they have been done with ARB approvals as well. All right. 944 Cloverdale Road, Cloverdale Historic District. This was tax records say 1919. It's a very low-slung, traditional bungalow with a wide front porch all the way around it. Very few modifications. It actually is on a side street, so all access is around the side street. The driveway and garage and everything are on the side street. Okay. 18 South Capitol Parkway is in the Capitol Parkway Historic District. It's a multi-gable bungalow, which has had very little modifications to the exterior as well. And then 102 North Lewis Street, which is in the St. Charles leg of the Capitol Heights Historic District. It's your basic bungalow. It's had some alterations on the front as well that were ARB approved. It is 1920. So the committee, we actually agreed to nominate all 5 of these particular pieces of property to receive a historic sign in December. So I should nominate or something. I move that we accept.
I
slate of addresses.
I guess since this is a new process, since we have not done it this way before, are there any questions?
Yeah, I had a question. What was the process for review? What did y'all meet? Did y'all Zoom? Did y'all swap emails or call? What?
We met. Christy had developed a really great specific worksheet that was 3 pages for us to go through and analyze each of these structures. And then she had provided the city, the ARB application, that kind of, all the different things that had gone with it as well. The homeowners submitted, what they knew, and then Christy had supplemented it with a lot of the things that she had access to. I think that these pieces and the questions that Christy asked and the information that came through are really good pieces to have for posterity as well, too. Because, each one of them had little histories. So it'll be nice for the survey.
Now, is it my understanding that Christy, you've gone back in the probate records and recorded some documents about historic designations? Will these be recorded in the probate office as historically designated?
Well, I mean, they are historically designated. They're in the districts. The information that we have, we didn't get a lot of historical information submitted from property owners. And those of you who weren't on the committee this go round will see these in the spring. We've published online our guidelines for evaluating the applications. So the information here follows that, each of those components and what the materials are, noting if it's original, replacement, new, ARB approved, whatever. And then I have a section for other notes where I add, it's my architectural description for the building.
City directories.
Note the modifications, and then I went through city directories to check addresses. And actually, what's interesting, and had additional photos. It's like 102 North Lewis. I went through, and it was a rental property, but the same people lived there, for at least 25 years. And you could see the progression of because city directories provide the occupation of the resident. The guy worked for Waterworks, and then he was an auto mechanic at a service station. And then the next time I checked, he owned a service station. He had his own self-service station. And then Carol just came across a reference in the newspaper from the Mrs. McCain of that residence who heard the lightning strike the Pinkard house that burned down on Madison Avenue in
1966.
Yeah, so
her mother lived there. She was looking for her to make sure she had gotten out. So just creating all of these little pieces, these puzzles kind of come together. So I think just this process is a really good start on supplementing the existing surveys that go with these neighborhoods.
I did not realize until a few weekends ago that the Sanborn maps are available from the Library of Congress. I researched my street and my area, and it was interesting to see what had been around my house. I have a parking lot across the street from my house, and looking at the Sanborn map.
Do you know what year? What years do they have?
It looked to me like a original Sanborn map that was like a scan of the map, not a book. It appeared that they constantly updated the map with glue and
glue on.
They did.
Stick-ons.
Well, the 1953 version was updated through the 1970s.
Okay, this was apparently the 1950s because it predated the Alabama National Bank where I live, and there were still houses shown, like across from my house became a bank parking lot. I don't know what happened to that house, and you may be aware of across from that parking lot is a multi-use home with like some apartments, and it still shows a single family structure with servants' quarters out back, and this is on Felder Avenue where I live. It's interesting, but I just wanted to note the Sanborn maps. I didn't know they were that available. They're very high resolution.
The
scans.
University of Alabama cartography department has historic maps, and they have digitized the Sanborns for Montgomery from 1884, 1888. Is there an 1894, 1900, 1910?
For those people that may watch a YouTube video of this, the Sanborn maps are insurance maps.
Fire insurance.
Fire insurance maps. They denote the structure, the purpose of the structure, to the dimensions, the height as far as stories, and the veneer,
Composition.
composition, right.
Yeah.
It's
Very
interesting.
Yeah. They tell a lot of stories. They do. So, but it was refreshing. I think this whole we just had 5, and that's good. We can, but I think this is a really good process, and we'll be able to accumulate a lot. Every 6 months we'll be able to accumulate more information about some of the historic structures in there. We also discussed maybe, introducing the new methodology to the ARB too.
Have there been any more inquiries?
I've not had any.
Since
No, we
then?
had kind of a flurry, and the information was sent out to the neighborhoods, and our next deadline is what? March? No.
I think it's March
Or
1
is it
for the
Feb-
May
is it-
thing.
I'll have to look, but we'll start
Yeah.
when the next one is.
So, well, I think once we get the new signs out, that'll help a lot too. It'll create a lot of interest.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the recommendations of the committee and approve the signs as submitted for recognition.
Okay. Is there a second
Oh, yeah, just a question before
question?
doing
Okay.
So these nominations are not being evaluated under the new procedures, or are they?
Under the,
They
The
have
new
been.
signage,
Yes.
yes, they are.
they are.
This is that 3-person committee shown here, Ms. Broadnax, Ms. King, and Mr. Hanbury.
Right, I remember
They reviewed under the new.
they were reviewed on the new, I just want to make sure of that. And the committee is recommending, saying that it complies with those procedures.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd just amend my motion to say, I would move that we accept the report of the sign application review committee for approval of the sign.
Second.
Okay. All right. Any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by a show of hands. Okay. All right.
And then will you guys contact them, or how do we proceed?
I think what we'll do, since we're just making this up as we go along,
Let's take notes of what works.
what we'll do is that we will notify the applicants in writing that their applications have been reviewed by the committee and approved by the full body, that they need to remit payment for their sign, and that they will be presented at the December, whatever that date is, meeting.
Yeah.
So that gives me time to order the signs, and we'll get them. And that way, instead of, before when someone would come in and we'd say, oh, well, we'll call you when it comes in, we'll have them, and we can
Right.
actually do a presentation of the signs
Right. And that would be
at that
the-
December
the
meeting.
new
This gives us
sign.
plenty.
Sorry?
That would be the new sign?
Yes.
So these will be the first people that would
Yes.
Yes.
get the new sign?
Absolutely.
The
Yep.
brand new sign,
It
yeah.
will be.
And we
So
need,
we might be able to get some press coverage for that then too, to
I think
promote
that's a
it.
good idea. And when I was putting this together, the images too, one of the things I know when we were messing around with that design, the mid-state lady was confusing some of the things, so we need to make sure that they get the final design.
Yeah.
Because at the very end, she sent the old design. That's what we need to make sure that what she runs is the right design. So
Thank you very much. Moving right along, Education Committee. What is the pleasure of this body regarding another preservation leadership class? What is the sentiment of this body? Do we want to have another one?
Is anybody even recognized?
Yes, go right ahead.
You know, as much as I'd like to do this, I think we're going to know more about whether we should move forward in the coming months than we do right now. I think there's going to be a lot more certainty about everything
Right.
in about a month,
Sure.
if not 3 weeks.
Okay.
And we'll know better what the new year brings. And I mean, we can prepare, but I just think the call is something that we will know better in the coming months more than we do right now.
Right. In other words, you're saying why rush to judgment?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. All right.
This can, I mean, I for one think our class was very successful last year thanks to the hard work of the staff and the enthusiasm of the participants. But I think we're going to know this answer for sure. We will have a feeling. We're going to know better in the coming months.
Okay. All right.
I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the world at this time that will fade in a few weeks, if not a couple of months.
Okay. All right.
So I would punt this, and if that requires a motion, I'll make the motion.
Well,
but I think we can punt for a
Well,
little bit.
before we do that, Ms. Broadnick, are we on the same page regarding the preservation class?
Yes.
Do you know what we're talking about? Okay, good. All right.
I just think that preservation class last year was outstanding, and I'm still upset my stepdaughter stole my T-shirt. The programs, I read what they did, and everybody I spoke with that participated in this event that was at Huntington, how many weeks was it?
6.
6-week class last spring. Just, they would like to do it again, and I'm like, wow,
Sure.
okay. Were there 40 participants or close to 40?
We had 30.
30,
The
okay.
room would accommodate, I think, we said we were capping it at 25 and we let a few more in. That was comfortable for that space.
And for those that may watch this recording that don't know, a year ago there was a preservation seminar, historic preservation seminar, that the staff of the office put together, and it was just a good group of people, and it culminated, I believe, in a picnic at the Oakwood Cemetery, and
We had barbecue with Hank Williams. Yep, we sure did.
And we should have had another one. Actually, I say last year, but goodness, it's been almost 2 years with this blur year of we're experiencing at the moment. Yeah. Wow.
So, what are we saying is the sentiment of this body?
I agree with Brian that we should probably put this off a little bit longer. If the seminars were great last year, I just don't know how you do it virtually or otherwise, that we were looking at other options. Doing a virtual presentation requires really retooling how you present things. And some of those things that were covered in the seminar would take significant retooling, I think, in order to make it come across virtually the way it came across.
Sure, you're right.
Individually. So I just say wait a little while.
I mean, once we get beyond the politics of the current moment, when everything's settled, they say that there are vaccines that are about to come. And if that's true, then come the time of this seminar, we'll know whether or not there's science to allow us to meet in person or whether we need to continue virtually, because the politics is about to be over for the time being, and the science will speak the truth.
Okay.
So that's why I think it's time to wait.
Right.
once, the people have spoken,
Sure.
then it's going to become clear, and from everything that has been said, there are several vaccines in the final stages. So let's just pray that we can put COVID behind us, and 2021 will be a year we can get back to normal.
That's true. Any different opinion, different view?
Dr. Bailey, if I may, I just want to throw out there something for y'all to think about as we consider moving forward. Dr. Bailey and Dallas and I were at a meeting that at Old Alabama Town last Thursday evening to talk about some of the efforts they're making to move in new directions and to have a broader appeal community-wide and not just be a destination for fourth graders. We have tried in years past to partner with them on educational programming, and Sandra Nickel came before this body several years ago and asked us to partner with them, and it got dropped on their end. Not they never got back to us when we were in those planning phases. So I would just I mentioned that in case you all want to consider trying to partner with them once again, because frankly, me putting together the 6 weeks and teaching most of those classes wore me out, because I got a day job too. So if there's a way to redistribute the responsibilities, and I'd never done it before, but I think we went all out with the shirts and the bags and the
Swag.
but it really took a lot to do it. So if there's a way to have some others maybe shoulder some of that load, would be a tremendous help to me.
Okay.
I think that the time is appropriate at this right now to do that, to reapproach it, to get a recommitment, and to get as well as help with financial sponsorship.
Well, and again, because we got sponsorships, and people gave more money. I was not asking for a lot of money, and everybody gave me more money than I expected. And then I'd talk to someone that's like, "Well, what'd so and so give you?" And I told them, they're like, "Well, I'm going to give you that too." We were asking for $25 sponsorships and ended up with $250 sponsorships from businesses and a number of the neighborhood associations. So I think we don't need the money. I've got a special account, but if we don't spend the money, we lose it. But, an organization who could probably raise more money and more sponsorships might benefit more from that higher profile than because we don't need it, frankly.
I just had an off-the-wall idea. If we ever got this back to normal, I know Old Cloverdale and Landmarks, we're 501c3s. We could consider some of these scholarships for it, and they could get some kind of tax benefit, like a Marshall Millworks or somebody that wanted to give money toward this program. We could say, hey, we want to sponsor. Give a scholarship to people to attend this class, and it might even help. Solicit's not the word I'm looking for, but they get a benefit from the donation. But of course, I guess they're getting an advertising benefit with the T-shirt and the mention. You can write it off, I guess, more than one way.
Now, we did have a couple of neighborhood associations sponsored some of their residents. We only it was a $25 fee, so it wasn't exorbitant. And I only asked 4 businesses for sponsorships, and they all gave us $250. It was Sandra Nickel, Marshall Millworks, John Lee Paint, and Southern Sash. And, who bats 100%? Really. I just think there are others out there. I've been working with the paint rep from PPG, we're about this close to getting our historic palette available at Home Depot because of her. you know, we've got a lot of things. We're about this close to getting the Realtors Association to automatically populate a property as historic when they do their MLS listings. You know, we've got a number of entities we've been working with more closely in the last year that may also want to be a part of it that haven't been before, haven't really even been part of the conversation before.
Okay. All right, very good. So I think what I'm hearing is that we'll sit tight on this for right now and see how events develop in the next couple of weeks or months, and be prepared if things seem favorable to launch our preservation class for.
Well, it may be worth a discussion with Collier at this point, because even if we can't do it in the spring, there's a good chance we could do it in the fall. You know, just to be ready to run with something. But to gauge the interest of Landmarks Foundation might be beneficial, so we know if it's just going to be y'all doing it, or if there's going to be a little more behind it.
Okay.
I don't know if now is the proper time to ask, but I keep reading that the core mission of Landmarks has changed. Could you update us on what Landmarks has changed, how it's changed?
It's not really changed.
Expanded, or?
No, it's just almost flipped, in other words.
Well,
I mean,
re-envisioned is what they keep saying.
Is it COVID related or
No.
permanent? Okay.
not really. And it has to do with our image, and Christy hit the nail on the head when she said our image of being fourth grade destination. We're a lot more than that, but that could possibly be where we stand at this point, and since we have no fourth graders, we're tough. So we are re-examining, you know, our forefathers. You know, what did we do in the late 60s? How did we begin? What were we doing? You know, that kind of thing, and bringing it forward. So I think the refocus will be community preservation, with Old Alabama Town as, for better words, a lab, you know, or a place to show what you can do in your community as far as the physicalness of preservation and buildings and structures, you know. So we've kind of gone from the history part to the preservation. I mean, we're a historic organization which does historic preservation, history preservation. So it's kind of like, well, maybe we should be, you know, we should sort of refocus, especially with the opportunity within the preservation industry of economic development, which is so important now, you know, making preservation pay for itself.
And Landmarks used to be, I mean, they were did some of the first building rehabs downtown, Commerce Street and the old Confederate Post Office, you know, where they did some work and sold the properties with easements attached to them to protect them. So it's kind of coming back around. But I don't think their mission has changed. I think maybe some of the interpretation of how that needs to be executed has changed.
You know, they sort of got busy working on those 50 structures, and now that we're not going to get any more structures, it's kind of like, okay, well, you know. Plus, the whole tourism world has changed too, with the, you know, the internet and people traveling and things like that. So. We're starting to look more in our own backyard, and what stories can we tell and how can we tell them. So.
Okay, all right. Other business. Do we have an update on First Presbyterian Church?
They have delayed their request for demolition, although as far as I know, they're still negotiating unless you...
No, I think it's public knowledge because it's in the paper. There is a buyer.
Oh. Okay.
And they're taking him on. They're not closed, but they're taking it to. I mean, it's been published several places. Wayne Cisco, he's a developer out of Birmingham. I think he lives in Birmingham, but he's done lots of projects throughout the
Yeah, but he has done federal tax credit projects, historic tax credit projects, and has a record of finding the funding and completing projects. He initially came to town to look at Grove Court Apartments and was asked to take a look at First Pres as well while he was here. And frankly, First Presbyterian's probably a more manageable project than Grove Court. And Grove Court's got some legal entanglements now as well. So
His initial plan was residential or laws.
yeah.
Well, it's actually mixed use, I think, but, yeah, he has a good plan, and he's working with all the right folks right now, so we're hoping it's gonna
Okay.
fall through.
All right. Anything else as we get ready to close?
I wanted to know, is there any kind of requirement that we meet every month?
I believe it is stated in the city code, or is it in the code or the bylaws, or both? I know it's in the bylaws, but I can't remember if that's a reflection. I think it says in the city code that you will meet monthly with public notice.
Okay. I just, with not having, I mean, it takes like pretty much every one of us to be here.
Yeah, it does.
And the signs have been approved, and I don't know what there could possibly be on the agenda for November, December.
I mean, if y'all decide you want to suspend meeting, now I've got a meeting Thursday that may or may not determine whether or not I have an issue for you all to.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, through the end of the year, I mean, I've contemplated making a motion that we meet, or we postpone our meetings till January, subject to call of the chair.
Well, we have already announced that the signs are awarded at the December meeting.
Okay.
We need to meet in December at the very least.
Well,
But, we had discussions previously that if we didn't have any business to discuss, that we would not meet. So if you want to defer a decision on Education Committee until January, and sign applications have been approved to be awarded at the December meeting, and nothing else comes up, then you would have no business in November.
I'm not saying don't meet. I'm just saying give the chair the discretion to, if there was an agenda, to call a meeting. Otherwise, the last time we were here 20 minutes, and it's a struggle to get quorum.
Well, we didn't have a quorum last time.
Right. And
Is there any news on that? Any news on appointments?
Nope, we've gotten no response. I did get a request from the clerk's office. One of the council persons wanted to know the attendance records of their appointments, and I've made sure it was very clear that there was no attendance record to report for this body because they hadn't appointed anyone. So, but that's been a month at this point, so I haven't heard anything.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. As we continue to close, we have a guest here this evening, Mr. Reeves from City Planning. Would you just come to the mic and make a pitch in 55 seconds, please?
Mr. Chair, before we move on, I wanted to make a motion.
Oh, you do? I'm sorry. Just hold on just a second. I'm sorry.
I wanted to make a motion that we suspend meetings of the Historic Preservation Commission through till January 2021, subject to the call of the chair. Should there be a need arise that you could call a meeting in November or December.
Okay. Is there a second?
All right. Well, it sounds like it fails for lack of a second, but I wanted to make that motion. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Reeves, 55 seconds.
Hi, I'm Cruz Reeves. When you had the preservation leadership class last time, I wanted to be in it, but I had a schedule conflict and couldn't So I'd like to be included in the next one, but I sure hope it's not remote learning.
Sure. Just get with
And we don't know the
Christian.
date of it yet, so I don't know if I'll have a conflict or not on that one. But I'm very much interested in being included
Sure.
when I can.
Just get with her and she'll put you on the agenda. And while you're here, let me just mention this to the body. I talked with him before the meeting, and he retired from the Montgomery Fire Department, and he was one of the firemen present the evening of the fire at Dale Penthouse
Dale
in
Penthouse.
1967. I think some of us may have forgotten that horrific event, but he was one of the firemen present that afternoon. And when you come back, if you don't mind sharing a couple of moments with us regarding your memories of that event, we'd appreciate it.
It's in my first trip.
It's in the classic restaurant book, isn't it?
Well, I'd like to ask you a quick question about that. I drive by that building all the time. Have you ever been up there since that night to the
Nope.
top of the building?
I have not.
I mean, it apparently has been, the whole building looks in
course,
good shape.
It was the Walter Bragg Smith Apartments back then, but now it's Capitol Towers.
Yes. Well, bring us something to talk about when you come back to us. We'd appreciate it very much.
Okay.
Okay? As we close, I'd like to thank Mrs. Christy Anderson and Ms. Paula Wade for sharing your time with us this afternoon, and our other commissioners for coming out. There being no further business, this meeting is hereby adjourned.